my nights would be better spent staring at the open sky. I don't know where lies end. Just hope it's better than what's behind.
You brought up a topic the other day, and I remember we ended up having a pretty. Oh, I think you guys had like a 40-minute conversation. I was just sitting there listening.
Oh, I didn't bring it up.
I don't think
Mike
I said. Oh, did Mike bring it up?
Yeah, Mike.
Oh, Mike brought it up. That's what it was. And you two talked about it for like probably like 30 minutes. And I was just sitting there listening.
Yeah.
And so I wanted you to bring that up again. Mike, what was your question that you brought up to us? And could you phrase that again? Because I think that's a worthwhile conversation.
You could even give like a little bit of background.
Yeah,
too.
a little bit of background.
So I'm trying to remember how I phrased this in a generic way, but I think the generic phrasing of the question is doing something nice or good for somebody else without asking their consent a good thing, or is it not?
Right.
And the question actually was initially phrased, is it rude or is it polite? And then is it good or is it bad?
Right.
This came from a conversation that I was having with somebody else where somebody tried to do something nice for them and didn't ask for their permission to do it. And then they saw that as rude because it was taking away their agency to do that thing when they're working on it. And so they're like, well, could have just taken one additional step and asked for the consent of doing the nice thing. I was like, well, and then when I say, well, that led on to quite legitimately like a 2-hour-long conversation to where the analogy became centered around men opening doors for women, like chivalrous acts, like these little things, because it was focused on like me doing something for somebody else where there's not like a monetary gain or a cost at all. It's just purely
just something.
It's
an action.
You make an observation. This would be nice for that certain person because there's an obstacle in the way. I'm going to open the door for them. I'm just going to do it without asking consent. Is that good or is it bad? Is it rude or is it polite?
Right.
And that instigated
like
a whole
offering to
conversation.
take their cart back for them. For
not even offering. The trick would be actually just doing
it.
Yeah, walking up and going, "Hey, I got this for you."
Correct.
Yeah, and
because asking would then be
consent. Isn't that weird that my immediate thought was to offer?
Sure.
Like, because that was because I've done that before. I walk, hey, do you want me to grab that for you? I can take it back.
And oh crap!
Like,
I think depending on like real world things, like that is like contextual memory. You might do that just because of things like opening a door is the example I liked because we don't ask that.
I don't. Yeah, I was gonna say if you're behind me, I open the door for you.
So that was the question. So I'm gonna leave that question there unless you guys want me to.
No, I like it.
But there was more to it, Mike. I think because the really the way that discussion progressed was it wasn't just about is it good, is it bad to do an act that is kind for somebody or that you view as kind for somebody without their permission, essentially, right? Like, but it moved beyond that into what are the repercussions when it becomes the norm for negatively reinforced or
the conversation went in two major phases. One was, is it, and that's kind of what I was trying to be generic with the questioning. I couldn't remember how, but the first phase is one-on-one, right?
Yep.
Is this considered rude or polite?
Right.
If me opening the door for you, is that rude without asking consent or doing something nice for you, is that rude? And then when I was having the initial conversation, this is where we went with it as well, is if you extend that logic, how does that impact society at large or in general? Does this have a net gain or a net negative impact on society if we then demonize doing good acts without first asking consent?
So, and I remember we kind of talked about that, but I gave an example. Like, I'll be honest with you, I hold the door open for anyone who's behind me. I don't care who's behind. I'm the type of person that like, there's somebody 30 paces behind me and I'll hold the door and like wait for them and they're like, ah, crap. And they have to start running faster. And I'm like, no, I can wait, but like, that's the kind of person I'm like, if you're behind me, I'm going to hold the door open for you. Right. But I do remember there's one of the other teachers I work with. And I remember he was talking to us about how shocked he was. This was literally years ago, probably 8 years ago. But he was walking into the gym and he held the door open for a woman who was behind him.
Right.
And she looked at him and literally said, did I give you my consent? And then walked through the other door, opened it for herself and walked in. And he was just like shocked, like, what the heck just happened? And like, I think it's funny that Mike brought up that, that question because I haven't thought about that since literally in like 8 to 10 years. I mean, I
Sure.
haven't thought about that, but it was interesting when you brought that up, that my mind went straight to that reaction and went to the fact that I hold the door open all the time. I've never had a negative reaction.
Yeah.
Now, granted, it might just be where we live.
It could be.
I mean, like, we
It
live
very
in a
well could
decently
be.
conservative place.
Sure.
And so, yeah, well, I mean, not so much anymore, especially state-wise. But I've never had somebody get upset with me for holding open the door for them.
Sure.
Ever. And I hold them up.
then let's start with the
all the
first
time.
part of the question then, because like again, it's trying to be generic. It's not just the
Yeah,
initial
yeah.
example of is it
Right.
of a door. So the first question would be: is it rude or is it not rude to then do something nice for somebody or help somebody else out without asking their consent?
And see, this is where I think when the where I struggled, because I put that on a gradient, right? Like I put that on hey, if I see that you're struggling to lift something in your home, do I walk in your home and like help you with that? Even though, right? Like that's
So
the
there
extreme.
are contexts to it.
I
Yeah.
think so, right? And
I think the situation does. I think it does depend on the situation to an extent.
but I think what you're getting at, right? Like, is my act of generosity, right, that is freely given to you, is that rude? Because I didn't ask you for it, right? And I guess if I had to answer that specific question, I would say no, it's not rude. Now, again, there are varying degrees and shades that you could like look at that where it could be rude, right? Like
just coming by and grabbing the cart
well,
from
sure,
somebody,
or
right?
like
that.
or if you see somebody struggling in the gym and like they're 3/4 of the way through their set and they're doing their final rep, and you come up and help them re-rack that weight, they might get really upset at you because they're like, no, I wanted to struggle to, you know what I mean?
That's
like,
interesting because I've seen a lot of videos of the opposite with like how somebody will be like struggling and somebody else will come up and help them, and it becomes like
I think Tim's referring to not he's not he doesn't mean spotting them on their last like, okay, you're at failure now,
Correct.
I have to help.
yeah.
I think he means so that's where it's
Okay,
also
so
like we're getting
before
into
it's
like
even a failure.
you're getting into like the tail ends of like, okay, you don't understand context of where you're at versus like
Yep.
I'm at a grocery store, it's generic. The majority of the time, you
Yes.
will want me to open the door
the
for
general,
you, right?
the general rule I would
Okay.
say is,
and so like at a
yes.
gym,
Yeah.
the general rule is like you're gonna know when is the right time to
Yes.
assist on the final spot.
It's when it's
not.
an emergency.
So,
That's
yeah.
that.
So,
That
like,
was. I was
the
just trying to
question
bring up the other
is
side.
trying to be focused, and we kind of got over that. We're trying to focus on the fat part of the bell curve, right?
Yep.
Like not the outliers. We understand
Okay.
there's outliers and contextual differences. The in general part.
I would say no. Then, yeah. I mean, I would agree with you. I would
not
say it's
rude?
no.
Okay.
Yeah,
Like
so,
something as innocuous as holding open a door for someone behind you. To me, that's just the basic respect you show another human being who's walking behind you.
and maybe that's what it is, right? Like it is, the reason it's not rude is because we are showing respect to another person.
Yeah.
Right. And I think in general, right? Which I struggle with generalities, by the way, because
Me too.
because it's like, but you don't understand. There's so many different ways that can apply.
Variables
Yeah.
Yep.
But in general, yeah, I think that you are showing respect to another human being, right? That's what that act of generosity is.
I think it's rude to assume that someone's generosity is bad.
so that's the
I mean,
part I took actually.
That's like, yeah. And I was thinking about it the other day after we had gotten off, and I was like, to me, it's like if you're just gonna assume the worst about somebody when they did something nice for you,
Yeah.
what does that say about you?
So yeah,
Right?
in my stipulation on that or my stance on it was like, I understand that you might have an outlier case or there might be wanting to finish your last set and it was wrong,
Sure.
right? I understand by nature the intent was supposed to be a positive one. By me then turning into a malicious intent on your part,
Yeah.
I am the one that's now being
Yeah.
malicious because I brought the malice into the equation.
Yes.
You didn't.
'Cause, yeah,
So-
yeah.
That was my view. And I'm like, you're right. I could have extenuating circumstances that you do not know about, but you did not know about them. You were acting in the best intent, or
Yeah.
majority of the time, that's what you're doing.
Yep.
If I ascribe ill intent on your part, I'm the one that's bringing that into the equation, not
Yes.
Mm.
you.
Yep.
At least that's my logic. Feel free to argue with me.
No,
whoever wants to.
I
But that was my stance, and I mean, I could be swayed either way, but that was my position, and I still kind of agree with that.
No, I like that because, well, and I would say probably people don't like that today because that really means you have to be responsible. Like the responsibility is on you to receive something in a positive manner, right? And if the lens that you look at, because I mean, as you said, what does it say, or you said, what does it say about you, right? That means the lens that you look at life through is everybody's out to get me,
Yeah.
right? Everybody is doing something malicious towards me. And that, to me, that's a sad way to live and operate. Like there's a difference between being skeptical and being like, wise versus like being pessimist is like the wrong word, but it's that same kind of like consistent mindset of negativity and viewing life through that negative lens.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And Mike, you took it a step further.
Yeah. So in my argument, and it was because pretty much this is where I took the argument right after this step is they're like, well, how is it me being wrong? I'm like, let's go the other way around. Like if I'm trying to do an act of good for somebody else and then I am chastised for it, or even asked to add an additional step, which is another thing, those two acts alone are going to reduce the percentage of people who are going to actually try to follow through with doing a good act.
Yep.
Because one, if you keep getting negative feedback from doing it, over time, you're going to be like, look, I'm getting data. This is a bad idea. I'm not going to do something nice for anybody ever again. Or even if you do the additional step of asking for consent, I do a lot of things where we're looking at processes and flows and how long it takes for people to do it. Adding a 50% workload to somebody in a 2-step process, so making it 3, you're reducing like exponentially with each step the odds of them completing the process. So if I have to ask for consent, I'm now way less likely to actually go through and open the door for you. If I know that's a step. So then hold on.
No, continue.
The final extrapolation of that was, okay, if we are in mass getting people in general to do less and less good things for each other, I think that's going to have a net negative impact on society in general, because then we are becoming more selfish and self-centered versus looking outwardly and how we can help other people, because we are not rewarding helping other people. We're actually punishing it.
That made me think of a really interesting example. I was scrolling on Twitter and I saw some girl had posted how, why don't guys try to flirt with you anymore? I know, right? That was my reaction. I was like, wait a minute, didn't we just go through an entire like multi-year period where like, if you look at a girl wrong, that is now like sexual assault, sexual harassment, and it's like, there's a whole thing about how men are keeping their distance from women at work, and this is making it harder on women. And I'm like, wait, what? Didn't we just talk about how like maintaining healthy boundaries is a good thing, and you complained about that forever, and now it's like, and yeah, there were things going on that needed to be addressed, but now now it's the pendulum swung to the other side. It's like, oh my gosh, like that just blew me away, because it's like it made me think exactly what you were saying. You start reinforcing these negative behaviors and saying you have to ask consent before you even flirt with me or say something nice to me or something like that. And it's like, why aren't they saying anything? What do you mean? Like, that's like, I don't want to have to go through 10 extra steps. Like,
well, and I think especially when you have something as harsh as dealing with the consequences of a sexual
why would I want a sexual harassment when I could just say, nope, I'm not even going to try?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I'm good. Nope.
Well, I mean, even to dial it down, women are like, why are men not chivalrous anymore? And that's kind of where we got with the example of opening the door for somebody. Sure. And that example is used a lot where guys are like, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't need literally a feminist to look at me and go, I can get this for myself.
Yeah, did I give you my consent?
Yeah,
it's like,
I'm trying to show you the decency of opening a door for you and the respect. I would do it for anybody.
Dude, I hold the door open for dudes who are behind me all the time. Absolutely. Like there's times where like I hold it open at the bank and somebody will walk in front of me, like a guy will walk in front of me, and you want to know what happens when we get to the line? What does he do? Hey, you can go in front of me. You were in front of me first. Yeah. Like that has happened so many times. And so it's like, it's just treat other human being with a basic respect. But the assumption that someone holding a door open to you is something nefarious is so weird to me.
Well, and it's interesting because there's actually a lot of research on like what happens when it's like someone doing something charitable and they encounter
they're way less likely to do it again.
And that's what it is. It literally it kills their desire, even their thought process around like, oh, I'm going to do this. Right.
They stop even thinking about it.
Exactly. Absolutely. Mike, I wanted to push back on something because you said something a little bit, and you said, you know, even in one more step, if I have to ask consent or whatever. Now let me just paint it like a slightly different scenario. So you are walking through the parking lot, and somebody, doesn't matter who, it is loading up their car, and they're just finishing up loading their car, and their buggy's sitting right there, and you walk by and say, "Hey, are you like okay?" In this scenario, right? Like in what you're saying is, it's totally fine if I walk up, grab the cart, and just put it where it goes, right? Like
Well, the question was, is that totally fine, or is that really?
yeah, is that totally fine, right? And then you said, well, if you add an extra step to ask for consent, that's going to make it less likely to do that. Well, in that scenario, though, I think my personal and maybe this is just something I've learned to do over time, but like if I was walking by and I wanted to do that for that person,
I would ask, "Hey, you want me to grab this for you?"
Yeah, I would say, "Hey, are you done with that?" Right?
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if do you think that's a training thing?
I think it's a contextual thing.
Okay.
People are
I was going to
generally-
say, I think it does depend
People
on
generally
context.
do a calculation ahead. You're reading the room in
Mhm,
short.
mhm.
For example, like the difference between somebody loading the cart into their car and somebody walking in through a door.
Sure.
The walking to the door is actually you're watching a clock tick down. The person is getting closer and closer to the
Sure.
door. I can just take the action because it's an impending action that's going to happen, right? Versus an action that is currently taking place. I'm not involved in this thing. They're already doing it. There's no clock running, really.
Yeah.
So your brain is firing a little bit differently on each of
Okay.
those. So yeah, there's definitely contextual situations where
Sure.
you could be like, "Ma'am, can I help you lift those?" There's the context of, I'm grabbing your stuff. You might think I'm going to steal it.
Right.
And your brain is
exactly.
also calculating that out,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
So I understand that there are contextual differences. That's why I'm like, in general,
Sure.
if I'm asking or if I'm making it requisite to ask for consent before doing any good thing, like
Sure.
let's say I'm lifting a couch and I'm falling backwards. Are you gonna ask me for?
Do you want me to catch
Do you want me to keep you from breaking your back?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Was that a yes? I think that was a no. You see what I'm saying? So
I do.
the general part around the question is like, yes, there's always going to be contextual things. There's going to be things on the outliers of the bell curve.
Yeah.
Right now, it's more of a thought exercise.
We're focusing more on
We're focusing on the thought exercise of, if I ask for consent, sure, that's nice. If I can do that contextually, it's not a problem. But a lot of times, adding additional steps to processes is proven to be an inhibitor to doing actions. So if we know that,
Yeah.
should we really make that a requirement of doing a small good deed for somebody, or should we not?
So do you think then that perhaps there are different categories that each of these fall into, and if we were to attack, so if that person is reacting negatively, right, to the feedback that they're given, right, and that's charitable or kind feedback or kind actions, right, maybe then would it be better to say, if we negatively reinforce charitable actions that would not necessarily need consent, or if we negatively reinforce that would have a greater impact on, because I think that, to your point, there are times where you're going to just naturally assess the situation, read the room, and ask for that consent because it makes sense.
So I think, like, where I'm going, like, I don't want to put a hard rule on it.
Okay.
Because if I were, I'd say no consent.
Okay.
Because through that, it allows the learning mechanism to take place where you will naturally learn context. How did we learn that I should probably ask before
Sure.
picking up the old lady's groceries? Because I've seen somebody get robbed.
Right.
I now understand there's a possible action that
Right.
it might be perceived, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I pick it up and she hits my hand, like, "What are you doing?" And she freaked out. And I go, "Oh my gosh, yeah, you
Right.
didn't realize it. Can I help you?" Right? These are learning exercises. Whereas if I'm already told in the beginning that I shouldn't be doing these things, or I have to go through all these hoops that are going to prevent me from doing these things, I don't learn that context.
Right.
So I'm looking at it as overall, which one is going to yield the result that I want, which is I want a society where we are actively looking out for each other's interests, not necessarily our own, and we are willing to put ourselves in a position where we can help other people and sacrifice for other people. So to do that, I want to remove the barriers and allow some natural consequences to take place. Yeah, you might get hit, you might get yelled at. Girl might yell at you for opening the door. Sure. But what do I want for you? I want you to do nice things for other people, and I want that to become the majority or major predominant action that
Right.
people
Yeah.
take versus
Doing
not
right.
doing nice things.
So then essentially what we as a society should be doing is setting it up so that it's promoting those kinds of acts.
Yeah. even if you were to rebuke somebody's actions, the way you do that, like if let's say a girl really is let's say somebody, the example somebody gave me is like, what if I'm working on my own agency and ability to do things and you took that away from me and it's an exercise I'm going through, right?
Sure.
I'm not getting into more detail because it's okay. You know, thank you for opening the door for me. I'm actually trying to do this thing right now where it's this.
Yeah.
If you see me again, I appreciate the thought, but please don't do that. But thank you very much for this one time. Like there are polite ways to get rejected, right? Same as when you're asking girls out.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are girls who are very smooth and very polite. Like you still feel
Yeah.
okay about yourself. You can go out and still try to ask
Sure.
another girl out. Then there's girls where it's like, you made me feel like I was less than dirt. For what reason?
Right.
Like why would you do that to somebody? And so the act and how you let that person down is also an act of kindness that they are then doing. So again, I'm looking for a society in general that's not looking at their own self-interests. I wanted a society that's looking outwardly and going, okay, how is my action going to impact you and what can I do for you in this instance, right? So if everyone has that mindset, guy might go open a door for the girl. The girl doesn't want it, but she's in that mindset. She goes, thank you very much for considering this. I would appreciate it next time if you let me open my own door, but thank you very much. Have a nice day. Like that mindset is a very positive one and you can still get the actions that everyone wants. The girl get to open her own door.
Yep.
The guy got to do something nice and he's going to keep doing something nice. Everyone's
Yeah.
great, right?
I love that.
So
That's good. That's good.
When this silent, you'll be alone. Far from friends in life. You'll spend your evenings getting stoned.